Well, here's the first serious video after the introduction. Getting started. The most basic of basics first. The first thing I'm going to say is you really do need to be able to use the DOS command line. So all you have to do is go down here, type in command under search, and you'll find your command prompt. There it is. Now, a lot of people don't like using command tools and command line. I really don't know why. The basic DOS command prompt is very easy to use. So here we have the window. You get your current directory as the prompt. So for instance, if I use CD, which stands for change directory, I can go up to the root C drive directory, and then I can type dir to tell me what's in that directory, and there it is. I can use cd users to change directory to the users directory, and then dir, and then cd daddio to change directory to daddio. That's my user space. It's been called that on my home computer ever since my daughter was little. And then dir again. So it's very easy to use the DOS command tool, and really what happens is you only end up using a small subset of the available commands. You don't have to learn everything at all, and when you get started you can do quite a lot with just a few basic commands. Of course you can go and Google on DOS commands, or go on Google on DOS command tutorials and so on. You can find plenty of stuff online if you want to. But the thing is, we're going to be using command line when we're compiling programs and stuff, so if you're going to follow these videos, it's a good idea to learn a bit yourself. But of course you can pick up quite a lot of how to use the DOS command line just by watching these videos. Just hit the pause button anytime you want to see what's just flashed up on the screen. Okay, I'm not going to say much more than that now for the using the command line. Again, I don't know why people tend to shy away from doing that. Now you need a plain text editor and a notepad. I'll just do notepad mytext.txt. .txt is the standard extension for a text file. Now it says it can't find mytext.txt. Do I want to create a new file? And I can do yes, and I can type in this is my text, and then I can go to file and save. Notepad is so easy to use. It's just such a nice little program. Now the thing is, Notepad is a plain text editor. What does that mean? It means that when I saved this thing to a text file, the only things in the file are going to be the bytes containing the characters that I've typed in, including perhaps end of file byte, line return bytes, tabs, or whatever it is. But basically what's in that text file is just what you typed in. If you have something like Microsoft Word or OpenOffice, the files that you save contain huge amounts of stuff wanted by the word processor. There's none of this kind of stuff in a plain text file, And the important thing about a plain text editor is that compilers don't want anything else. When you type in your code into a file that you want to give to a compiler, it has to be a plain text file. But as I said, Notepad is just such a nice, easy to use, easy to learn program. Use Notepad as a plain text editor. Use batch files. Well, let's go back to our plain text editor, and this time I'm going to type in some DOS commands. dir cd c:/dir, and this time I'm going to save it as my commands. I won't save it as a text file, but I'm going to type .bat, which will tell the computer that it's a batch file. Now if I do dir meister, there we are, we have mycommands.bat. If I do, there we are, so I can just type in my commands and it'll run through all those commands, and this time leave me in my home directory. Now, you would only ever do this kind of thing if you had a whole load of commands that you would type in every day. You get sick of it, so you just put them all into a file with a .bat extension, and then it would run things automatically. Now, a command like cd c:/users/daddio is quite easy, but what if it's a very long directory structure that you want to get to all at once? And more likely, what if you want to run some program with a whole load of options? These commands can, on the DOS prompt, can get very long to type in. And what that means is that you're very likely to make if you're over here on the DOS prompt, typing it all in, you're very likely to make a typing error, and it won't work, and then you'll try and type it again, and you'll make the same typing error, or a different typing error, and you'll just generally drive yourself nuts if you have a very long command. So if you have even just a single really long command with loads of options and long directory names and whatever, just do type them into a .bat file and run it that way. It will preserve your sanity, I promise. When we're using compilers, we'll usually use makefile, but in the same way we can just type stuff into a file and compile our stuff that way rather than typing everything in at the command line. That will become essential. So we'll look at makefiles some other time. So that's all I have to say about .batch files. Now, what was the other thing? Oh yes, redirect output. Redirect output. What do I mean by that? Well, supposing, here we are, we're at our command prompt. I can type help here, and what it'll do, it will list all the DOS commands. There we are. We can scroll up, but the thing is, if we have output like that, what we can do is do help and then angle bracket on the right angle bracket, which you can think of as an arrow, and I'll call it DOS help.text. So what that does is, instead of putting all that information onto the screen, what we can do is say, don't put it to the screen, send it all to a file called doshelp.txt. That's called redirection, apparently. So, if I do Notepad doshelp.txt, there it all is. I've redirected the output of help to a file called doshelp.txt. So, as you can see, there's not really that many commands, and some of them you won't use very much at all anyway. However, let's have a look. There's xcopy at the bottom here, copies, files and directory trees. Well, that tells you what it does, but it doesn't really tell you how to use it. Well, what we can do is help xcopy, and we can direct that to xcopy help.txt, and then we can do Notepad xcopy help.txt, and what it does is it tells us how to use the xcopy command. So redirecting stuff is very useful, especially when you're wanting to output things like help for a particular command. I'll just close that Notepad. Now there's another way you can redirect files. I could use 2 arrows. So I could have done help xcopy, 2 arrows this time, doshelp.txt. Now I'll just do a new Notepad. It's strange how DOS is not case sensitive. So here we are, there's our list of DOS commands that we had through help. Now this time it's added the information on how to use xcopy. If we used a single arrow here, it would have just written the output of xcopy to doshelp.txt, and it would have overwritten the information that was already in there. But if we use 2 arrows, it appends. Well, that's all we managed to do today in this particular short video. That was to get the most basics, those 4 points across. In the next part of getting started, we'll look at the rest of the stuff, like downloading compilers. Well, before I leave you here, I'm just going to leave you with, so here we are, you can see I've got the command tool up. If I hit the up arrow key, it'll give me the last command I typed in, and then I hit the up arrow key again, it's the command before, and again the command before, and again the command before, and I can hit the down arrow key too. And what that means is you can just use the up and down arrow keys to find previous commands and repeat them without having to type them again. Very useful for commands that have been a bit tedious to type in the first place. So let's move on to the next video.